Doing today? I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Today's life story is going to be the first time I took LSD, or acid. It's quite a crazy story, so. Got some fucking fire ass bud here. This is some green crack, I believe. I think I have about a quarter of this. It's some fire weed. But, I'm not going to smoke that, just because I'm inside and I don't want to fucking stink up the whole house. And, yeah, so I'm actually reading a trip report that This trip was very risky and I could have had a bad trip. In no way do I recommend you repeat these actions. I'm currently still feeling the effects while writing this. I was writing it. So 6 p.m. dropped 2 125 UG tabs, swallowed them after 15 minutes, ate a burger and sat in bed. Anticipating effects, keep in mind this is my first LSD experience. Love this juice. This is some tropical lemonade from Lemonade Stand. They have an Instagram. I'll put that on screen now. It's dope. You should check it out. 7:30 p.m. I was looking at my fan ceiling shadow while it was turned off. The shadow began to change color and shape into a cannabis leaf or weed leaf. It was very vibrant. It was a very vibrant blend of Rasta colors, and it began to get jagged around the edges. So it was black. It wasn't like a green weed leaf. The fan's shadow just turned into like a black weed leaf, and it had the Rasta colors around it. And it slowly got brighter and brighter, and in an instant exploded into a flash of color. They started spinning around and began to turn into shapes indescribably complex. It appeared the fan was turned on, so like the shadow started moving as it exploded. Like the colors exploded and it started moving the fan as if someone turned the fan on. And this was sort of dark because I only have my lamp on, and like the darkness like blacked out the actual fan and just the shadow was there. It was really crazy. The shadow was so vibrant, the actual fan seemed to disappear and it was only the shadow left. The room kept blacking out repeatedly. I would stare at the shadow and it would get bigger and bigger until it got so dark I would think my eyes were closed. And that's what I was talking about, how the fan would black out. After a few seconds it would shrink and get smaller and it would repeat. I turned my light off and laid in bed listening to music. I could see the outline of the window in the darkness. As I took a breath of air in, it would get bigger and bigger. As I breathed out, it began to get smaller. I enjoyed seeing this, and the longer I stared, the more it changed. I began seeing very bright pink outlining the blinds, and the whole room was moving. I could see the outline of the furniture, and they were moving, and the darkness turned into many shapes and even a few figures that looked like faces. The entire world felt alive. I laid in bed smiling so hard I started crying tears of joy. I was smiling so much it hurt my mouth. I laughed at just the thought of that. I've never been so happy it hurts to smile. The thought of experiencing that for the first time made me even more happy. In an instant it felt as if the stress was gone, just completely stress-free and in an instant it felt as if everything stress was gone, just completely stress-free, and I laid in bed just mind blown at how happy I was. I was trying to wrap my mind around how you have a bad trip. I asked myself, how do people have bad trips? I'm the happiest I've been in years. I also asked this because I wasn't in a good setting. My parents were awake and I was in my room, which made me question how bad trips work. I was in a bad spot and still had the time of my life. I even had to walk to my mom, and I did it just fine without freaking out or thinking bad thoughts. Talk to my mom, not walk. 8:30 p.m. smoked and ate the weed. 9 p.m. very heavy effects. The entire room was shaking, almost indescribable. The weed made the effects feel 10 times heavier. Music was very different. It sounded a lot more crisp and real, if that makes sense. 10 p.m. I walk outside to get my skateboard that I left in my friend's car. The cold air was freezing. My hands felt like they were frozen solid. My phone looks completely different. I almost got confused trying to play music on my own phone. I can't describe how it was different. It was just very odd. A lot of things were out of place. The SoundCloud interface was completely different, and I sat there for 20 minutes trying to learn how to use my own phone. I laughed for a good 10 minutes after, knowing I couldn't even use my own phone I've had for a year. It's hilarious to me. 4 a.m. So this is skipping from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. I decide to drop another 2 tabs. I keep them in my mouth for 30 minutes, then swallow them with water. Keep in mind I'm still feeling very heavy effects from the first 2 tabs. This is when shit gets crazy, and this is when I don't recommend ever doing this. This is my first time taking tabs, so I wasn't really thinking about it, and it was a bad decision. I get on the bus for school and I look out the window. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The sun was just rising and I was speechless at the beauty of the world. I realized just how blessed we are to live. I grew a new respect for life, for the world. I finally get to school and I meet this guy I was selling Adderall to. He gives me the money and we are talking in the bathroom. I told him what I did and he said, I quote, "Your eyes look like flying saucers." I was laughing, but deep down mentally was kind of scared that my eyes were wide enough for teachers to notice. He calmed me down by saying no teacher is going to think high school kids have access to LSD. If anything, they might think you're just hyped up on caffeine, which is very true, because a lot of high school kids don't have access to LSD, but we part ways and he wishes me luck. I was calmed down a bit by what he said. Still very worried, I decided to take deep breaths, and as I did, the hallway moved with me. It made me chuckle and calmed me down a bit. I started walking with my other friend. I wanted to be around someone sober so I can stay down to earth. He has taken tabs before, so I figured if I'm going to be around anyone, it should be him. 7:30 a.m. I had a free period, first block, so instead of getting signatures, it was my last day, had to get my teacher's signatures for grades and stuff. I decided to take the period to get myself together. I sat in the bathroom vaping with my friend, the one who were taking tabs. He showed me very trippy pictures on Google. It was actually really fun. The tiles in the bathroom were also very trippy. It was funny, we just sat in the bathroom for like an hour, and he was just showing me fucking trippy ass pictures he had on Google. The tiles were black and white checkered colors, and I sat there in amazement as it moved and changed under me. I looked down at my shoes, and the floor would get closer and closer and farther and farther. It seemed like the room was spinning. Mentally, I knew it wasn't spinning, so I wasn't dizzy, but in my eyes, it appeared as if I was spinning. It's so weird, like I looked at my shoes on the floor and they would just get closer and closer as if I was like shrinking, and then like I would almost fall over because they're not actually shrinking. I was just leaning forward and I would lose my balance a lot. It was actually pretty fun. I looked in the mirror at myself and stared into my eyes. It was amazing. It made me smile to know I was blessed enough to have people like this, someone who would look after me. He could have said no and went to class, but he skipped and stayed with me instead. It made me smile to know I had someone who would do that for me, because when you're tripping on fucking tabs, you definitely want to be around sober people, and this motherfucker skipped class just so like I wouldn't flip the fuck out. So shouts out to you, dude. I'm not gonna say your name. It was my last day in school, hence the reason I said fuck it and tripped in school. I had to walk around talking to all my teachers, getting their signatures. I walked around getting signatures. I felt like every person I passed was looking at me. I made awkward eye contact with a few people, and their faces were very trippy and intimidating. I managed to take 4 tests I had to make up. I was starting to peak as I was talking to my bio teacher. That did not go well at all. I think she knew something was up. She gave me an odd look, but I took my test and left. I was walking around school for another 30 minutes, vaping in the bathroom, swishing every 5 minutes so I wouldn't get caught. I kept hearing the music from the night before. Every time I would turn a corner, I would hear really loud music. Then once I turned, it would just be someone talking and the music would stop. That happened more times than I can count. Like, I would literally just be walking, and I would hear the music, and I would turn the corner, and it's just someone talking. And it's crazy because I could hear the bass, because I have a speaker, because I had a speaker and it was really loud and like it was crazy. I realized how hard I was tripping, and it only seemed to get more and more real. My mom picked me up and I said bye to the office and left for home, so happy to be gone. A few days later, I can't describe how, but when I smoked weed it feels very different. I legitimately feel like I'm tripping off the weed. I still feel sort of a hangover effect, things are still wavy, and weed is almost completely a different high. Overall, a very dumb idea and I should not have done it, but overall I didn't have a bad trip, had a little bit of life one day at a time. So that's the trip report, guys. If you guys liked the video, like, rate, and subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.